Oh my god, Bloomberg, it is not my birthday, but I appreciate the rumors because it feels like my birthday right now. We've got all kinds of great new information about this year's iMac, which I think by far is the Apple product I'm most excited for this year. And we're talking about why the iPad Pro on a stick idea is so good. Let's begin. Alright, so first off, we got some clarification in these reports that can finally kill off some of you stupid conceptors. Just kidding, I love you, and I have a special place for you in my heart. But some of the iMac redesign renders just looked so incredibly stupid and dumb to me. There were a lot of people trying to make the argument that you need to keep that Apple logo and you gotta keep that iMac chin because the iMac is iconic, and if the iMac doesn't have a chin, then it won't even look like an iMac anymore. Well, you know what? The home button used to be iconic, alright? But then they removed it and now the notch is iconic, alright? So Apple gets to dictate what is and isn't iconic, alright? So it's alright if they want to move away from having a chin on the iMac. And that's why for the longest time I've always wanted the redesigned iMac to just look like an iPad Pro from the front. And now it's starting to sound like it might even look like an iPad Pro from the back, because the Bloomberg report says that they will be ditching that curved bubble back on the iMac, which they've had for a long time, by the way. Even longer than the traditional front of the iMac design we've had for over 10 years now. They've always done kind of the rounded back approach. So to hear that there's going to be a flat back, I'm very excited to see, because for one, again, it makes it look more like an iPad in the first place, and secondly, it makes me question the thinness of this device, right? Because if they don't want to bubble out the back, does that mean that it needs significantly less fans than before? Because of course, this iMac redesign is going to be rocking Apple Silicon, probably going to be game-changing performance, way better than the current existing iMacs, and most likely still going to be rocking LCD displays. So it doesn't sound like these iMacs are going to be getting mini LED or OLED or that type of thing, but hopefully, because they still have LCD, that can make the price somewhat reasonable, because I don't want new futuristic cool looking iMacs to come out but they start at $10,000 and that's what you gotta pay to get the best. That would tick me off a lot. I'm hoping that they can keep the price points as close as they can to the pre-existing 21.5-inch and 27-inch iMacs they'll be replacing, but simultaneously the report also says that these new iMacs are going to be resembling the design of the Pro Display XDR a lot, which on one hand, I'm like, okay, cool, futuristic, minimal looking monitor, but on the other hand, there's something that's attached to the Pro Display XDR that Apple seems to be very proud of that I despise with every ounce of my soul and being, and it is called the Pro Stand, which starts at $1 trillion, and I know it doesn't start at $1 trillion, but it might as well have. At $9.99, if you're gonna use that argument of, well, pros pay for the premium, well, pros are paying premiums that are unnecessary, okay? So if you're gonna make a whole brand, whether it's like Red Digital or something, that makes super expensive, high-priced stuff because the pros can afford it, then Apple doesn't get away with that when they're trying to sell iPod Touches at $200, okay? You can't have the two conflicted, you have the budget devices and you've got the luxury devices. I hate the Pro Stand, in case you didn't know. Just $1,000 for literal L of metal. I hate everything about that, and I want it to stay far away from the iMac if at all possible, alright? I don't care if the iMac display can't be adjusted or rotated into a vertical stance for all of our TikTok viewers. That's okay, alright? It's fine if the iMac can only pivot like the old iMacs, and it doesn't need to have an up and down mode like the Pro Display XDR. Alright, Apple, it's not worth it. Don't bring the Pro Stand to the iMac. But that's not what the Bloomberg report is saying. It's simply saying that bezel-wise, because the bezels are so much thinner on these new iMacs, it will look very similar to the Pro Display XDR. And a lot of people I saw confusing the report from Bloomberg, saying that, oh, these are going to be 21.5-inch and 27-inch iMacs, when in reality, the report specifically says it is replacing those iMacs, but it does not go into detail about the screen sizes, which from Quo in the past we have heard reference of there being a 24-inch iMac and a 32-inch iMac. Because Bloomberg is saying they're so similar to the Pro Display XDR, I would not be shocked if there ends up being, you know, a 24-inch LCD iMac and then a 32-inch LCD iMac that looks fairly similar to the Pro Display XDR, maybe a little thinner than that. I'm not sure if just with a typical LCD panel you need the iMac to be as chonk on the side, but to be honest with you, it's a desktop, right? So thinness and weight doesn't really matter that much. So if the next generation iMac ends up looking very similar to the Pro Display XDR, even with all the cheese grater holes on the back and basically all of the tech they put in there to make that display so extreme is just taken out and replaced with, you know, Apple Silicon, the SSD, dedicated GPU, and some power supply stuff. And it ends up being just from the outside, basically a Pro Display XDR, except hopefully no Pro stand and way cheaper and has decent specs. And ooh, of course, a webcam and speakers, of course. So maybe they're recycling a lot of this Pro Display design scheme, but I'm hoping they can thin down the sides a little bit. So again, it looks fairly close to an iPad Pro, and the dedicated webcam or Face ID even they add to this iMac can actually be good and decent. They've already brought a 1080p webcam to the 27-inch iMac, and of course the iMac Pro's had it for a long time. And in the age of the pandemic, with a lot more people working from home and having more home office setups, I think redesigning and revamping the iMac this year makes a whole lot of sense. And yes, I would absolutely be upgrading to it if it's priced correctly and the performance is as great as we're all expecting. So I think out of all the Apple products coming out this year, this updated iMac sounds like the most intriguing, and it's definitely the one I'm most excited for because my iMac Pro is coming up on its 4th year and I'm just kind of sick of using Intel processors every day. So I want to make the switch to Apple Silicon for good, and I want to make sure that it's in an all-in-one, clean, futuristic, up-to-date design, and hopefully they can do that this year. And of course, there was more information dropped in the Bloomberg report, but I have so many opinions on it that I don't think I can just crush it all into one video. So stay tuned for my thoughts on the upcoming Mac Pros. Yeah, more than one. And let me know what you guys think of all of these updated iMac rumors. This is your Alp Sheep here. We'll see you guys in the next one.